I would so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I guess you vote, don't you? Right-handed vote, all right.
Right hand.
Right-hand vote, all right.
There you go.
Any opposed? Okay. Do we have any
No.
comments? Okay. Moving right along. Mr. Smith.
Smith.
Did you call him Smith or Smith?
I think it's Schmidt.
I think it is.
Good evening.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking, Dennis.
Don't talk about my Chiefs or my Royals right now until after we get through the season.
I could talk about the Royals.
Okay, now we'll do that.
I have got a few updates for you to look at this evening. They are updates only at this point. I just wanted to visit with you a little bit about at Eugene Field. We have been talking about putting a foyer type entrance door lockdown control system in that northwest hallway that comes right into the to the office. And I've got some pricing on a couple of different ways to do it, and I'm just asking for a little bit of which way we want to go. The access control system, which includes the computers, the cameras, the programmability of the doors and the locking, was at $25,598, and that does include the doors and the door frames and the transom system, everything to block that off. The doors only with a buzz-in system for the office area. This includes all the doors, the panic hardware, and utilizing the cameras that we have now as a part of the buzz-in system, and just basically a mag lock on the door is going to run $93.67. So
Is there a benefit to going to spending all the money on the ACS system?
well, last year, I presented a access control system for Lincoln Elementary to replace that system out there. And at that time, I was asked by one of the board members, I forget who it was now, but asked me to get pricing on all the schools. And I've done that now. All the schools. That includes the high school, middle school, and the three elementaries. And that pricing is very substantial. It's almost $300,000, like $288,000 to do the whole district. This price of $25,598 only is just the one door.
Are they gold-plated?
Yeah, it's expensive. The system is expensive. But I think the whole system at Eugene Field was like 50-some thousand. That would be for 6 doors, because upfront cost of just one door, because of the computers and the control system, is what cost the money, or a lot of the money. The controller board.
Richard, the 9367 includes the partition wall, the door, everything?
Well,
and
that whole
everything
thing
that-
would be doors, yeah. There would be no partition. We would
Well,
fill that
I
whole.
mean, it would be where they couldn't get in without being buzzed in.
That's correct.
But all that's included in that?
Yes, yes.
And that's a few feet inside the present door.
That is approximately probably 12 or 13 feet in. It's where the ceiling, it goes like this for the step, and then it levels off to a flat spot. It's to that spot right there, the second flat spot in. Okay.
So you get a weather sheltering, but not necessarily access.
Any other questions on that at this point?
I'd like to know what the principal thinks about those systems.
Well, I think I'm a little confused. When you say the 25 is just for the one door, right?
Yes.
So then the extra, the 9,000, is that for all the doors? That's not for us?
These are two different bids.
Yeah,
Two complete different bids. One's an access control programmed entry system, and the other is just the door
Just the doors?
and a buzzer system for the office.
We've talked several times at site council about making it a more secure campus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we desperately need to make it more secure. We thought like he had said, putting the door inside, so there's double doors there and that entryway was a great idea. Because if you don't have that second door, people are gonna stand outside in the weather or whatever, waiting for someone to buzz them in. At least then they can come in, stand. It also would create a little bit of a barrier there for men and whatnot to come in. I like the idea of making it more secure. I think it's important in any school that you're at to make it as secure as you can. I know that is a little bit of a double-edged sword at Eugene Field because we do have the modulars outside and things like that, so it will require teachers to constantly keep keys with them and make sure they have ways into the facility, and it'll be a little more difficult for our secretaries because our office is not right there at those doors. So as long as we keep that in mind and how we're going to make sure we can allow people in efficiently and let our secretaries know who's at those doors, that's probably my biggest concern.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything else on doors? All right, the next thing I have for you tonight is the fencing around the playground on the south end of the school. This fencing would enclose the playground area only, not the whole campus, but the playground. That would be extending the existing fence on the east side down to the first south sidewalk in the front, and then back up to the corner of the school with a walk gate there. And then there's two existing openings in the south fence that would be filled in, just small openings. And then on the west side, the fence would be extending from the existing fence, following the inside of the sidewalk and to the corner of the building. And that side would include a 12-foot drive gate for snowplows and mowers and things like that, and then also a small walk gate for the kids to go from the school to the playground. And those bids, I just went ahead and put that out for solicitation to find out where we were at close. Doyle Morgan lives here in Ottawa for $65.39. Apex, who's done quite a bit of fencing for us in the past, was $81.84, and AAA didn't send the bid in.
You have any experience with Mr. Morgan?
I have not.
I do. He's done some work on the farm. He does good work.
I did call him back when he was the low bid, opened up the bids, and I called him back because he did not include his insurance certificate, and he doesn't have one at this point, but he said he would have one that would meet our specs before he would start the job if he should happen to get the job.
Just a side note there on the playground fence. We're looking at the playground at Eugene Field. Actually, Lori, who's here, is doing a lot of legwork on plans and those things. And one of the things that they're talking about, and she's actually going to be here next meeting and present on the 10th, and it would rearrange the playground a little bit. So on the fence, we'll have to look at it, you know, after we get the plan, the drawings back from Karen, and see if what Richard had bid is still the right way or right place for the fence and things. So hopefully by the 10th, then we'll have that information and be able to
Okay.
make a decision there. But go ahead.
Okay. At our last, we had the entire Eugene Field tested for CO2. We got that back, and the school was tested out fine, the main part of the school inside. The modulars, we did have an issue with the CO2 being high. I've asked Brandon to put together just some preliminary numbers to find out which way we would want to go. And these numbers is a ventilation system that we could put on a variable speed and or a timer and pull the CO2 out when it need be. Now the one thing that with this system is the air is not conditioned like what we put in the main part of the school. So when it's 20 degrees outside, we're pulling in 20-degree air. If it's 100-degree, we're pulling in 100-degree air. Those modulars, even though as old as they are, they passed codes and everything back then when they were built. But now with the new CO2 numbers that have come about in the last few years, they didn't allow the correct HVAC system in those units. So we got bids anywhere from $8,000 to $80,000.
In this one, then again, we'll bring back on the 10th, and Richard's going to check and see if this can be done over Christmas break. So on the 10th, again, we'll bring this one back and have a little more information there.
That'd be good.
Also, at Eugene Field, on the first floor, we have a boys' restroom on the north end of that first floor. On the south, and the girls on the south end. I've been asked to put together pricing to take that boys' bathroom and the girls' bathroom and split it in the middle and see what we could come up with as far as pricing for girls and boys at each end of that school. And Lloyd Builders, I asked to do that, and he has not gotten back with me on any pricing as of yet. We also did ask Greenbush to do a playground safety inspection for Eugene Field. I received that back on Monday, the 19th, I believe it was, which was, last Monday, just before Thanksgiving. And there was a few items on there that I feel like we need to address as soon as possible. Then there's other things that we need to look at for the risk assessment and recommendation for eliminating or reducing it altogether, removing it altogether. With Dean working with Mrs. Catlin on some of that stuff, that will kind of all play into that.
On the report, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, I don't have it in front of me, I didn't pull it up, but they rank the degree of hazard like 1 to 7 or something. Is that accurate?
7 is
And
the
there's several
worst.
issues that, where it says 7 on this one that's pulled up, 7 total risk, that anything that has the 7, we need to address right away. So Richard has that list, and a lot of it's decreasing spacing on some of the equipment where someone can get their head or torso in. There's some exposed bolts, those types of things. That'll happen right away. And like I mentioned before, Lori's working on with a playground company on this to see what we can do. They're working on fundraising ideas, all that. She'll come and present. And what they have right now for the playground equipment, the estimate was about $40,000. And I know the PTO can't raise $40,000 overnight to do that. I think it's going to be our responsibility too, though, to make sure that the playground is safe. And we'll put a plan together, and like I said, Lori will have that on the 10th and see where we go from there. But the actual project will be a summer project other than what Richard needs to do right away to make sure that we're meeting the playground compliance or code, so.
Okay. And then just further updates, blinds are all in the gym and classrooms that was ordered. And the drainage on the north and east side of the building is complete, as well as the new sidewalk on the north side, and it's complete. And during rains, it looked like it, we've only had one rain since it's been in, but it was on a Saturday, and it looked like it was going to work, so I think we're in pretty good shape. Anything else?
Anything else for Richard?
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Moving on, board reports. Do you have any board reports?
I do.
Okay.
Unionville Site Council, actually, we met with the EFFE, and basically, we just looked at the site, went out on the playground and looked at what isn't acceptable as far as the study, and looked at the list and of the $40,000 list. One of the things that is on that list that concerns me is they want to move the basketball goals from one end of the playground to the other to get the kids separated a little bit, so they won't be playing basketball right down by the swings and all of that. And that price is $2,112 just to remove and put them up, which sounded like a terrible lot of money to me.
Yeah, when we get to that point and look and see
So look at that.
whether Richard's crew can do that or somebody locally.
That just
but-
seemed like
Right.
a lot of money. for
Yeah,
that.
there's several things that we may be able to do in-house that we won't have to pay the company to do.
There's several ideas for moneymakers that came up, fundraisers, and one of which is February 1st, chili supper and an auction, whatever. We'll be reporting that later, but just keep in mind, February 1st, keep it open, so we can help Juneville. Then, that was one. The other one, I went to Dean and Josh and I went to the Challenge Awards in Junction City. And when we talked about it here, I didn't really realize how important it was. It's 95 awards for the state of Kansas, 70 schools, 45 school districts. So we're one of 45 school districts. West Franklin was one of those also, so 2 in Franklin County. I thought that was great. I did write an article, I don't know if any of you read it or not, but I did not put at risk as a title. They put at risk as a title. They also got an email from me about that. Challenge Award. Doesn't challenge sound a lot better than at risk? But they changed my challenge to at risk. So I haven't heard back from him yet. But yes, at risk was considered as part of the formula, but it wasn't like
The only,
at risk people.
Right.
And it aggravated me that they couldn't copy from one page, but they did. It was a nice evening. It made me proud of our people that are working so hard, because these kids, it wasn't the highest functioning kids, it wasn't the highest test scores. It was using that formula that they have figured out, and they've done this several years, like 20 or whatever, long time. And I just thought it was a very nice banquet, very nice meeting, and I think that's all for right now, anyway.
Any other board reports?
I went to the Garfield Site Council here a couple weeks ago. One of the big things that we spent our time doing is Garfield's looking at modeling Lincoln and doing the Watchdogs program.
Cool.
So they're considering that, starting that. Trying to look at the interest in getting more male role models into the school, and both for safety and also to give male role models. So I thought that was really encouraging.
Good deal. Is that up and rolling again at Lincoln this year already?
yeah.
Cool. I have one. The Neighborhood Revitalization Committee met. There's 2 properties that we're going to vote on later this evening. They all met the qualifications of the program. I know that the 3 of us have been talking about the program, and should there be some changes to it, but we haven't got far enough along to sit down and say, recommend changes to the three bodies involved. So there could be some changes to that program as it continues to evolve. So. Any other board reports? Okay, moving on. Mr. Catt.
Okay, first thing I want to mention here is the bond refinance schedule. I got a email, actually Friday, from Greg about going ahead and complete the sale of the bonds to investors on Thursday, November 29th. That's a little bit sooner than what the calendar said. The resolution that was passed before allows that to happen. He feels like we need to get the interest rates locked in. So I had told him that would be good, talked to Susan Ward about that, and on Thursday afternoon or evening, whenever this process is done, Susan would have to come in and sign the bond purchase agreement, and then that would come back to the board on December 10th to adopt the resolution for that sale. I think we have another resolution. I'll have to check with Dottie, but the projected savings now is $1,020,336 on what he's projecting. So good news, and hope everything goes as planned there. Some dates coming up. Tomorrow night is the city legislative dinner at Neosho County. Everyone is registered, all the board members. Is there anyone that cannot attend?
I will be there, but I will be screaming in at the very last possible minute.
And we're
Okay.
starting at 5:30, right, Dean?
Yes, 5:30. And
5:30 is social hour, right?
yeah, I'd probably start the,
6 is
at lunch at 6 o'clock. And I prepared 4 items here that I will, unless one of you guys want to, most of this is taken, kind of what we did last year, but then also taken off of what KASB and Brandon worked on. And the first one is school finance, protecting the current funding and providing for the raising costs of targeted interventions in student support. And then I'll have a little blurb to say there. The next one is Ottawa Schools oppose shifting the tax burden to local school district taxpayers and maintaining state equalization for local property tax on bond and interest and local option budget, and to reinstate the state aid for capital outlay. Also, USD290 supports state funding for all-day kindergarten and supporting early childhood programs, additional funding for the programs that have the greatest impact on student success, and then protect social services. We don't feel like any decisions that they make should have an adverse effect on the other social services that people are receiving. Then on the other hand, it comes back and has an adverse effect on the districts when they don't receive those services they need, whether it's through food programs, mental health programs, whatever it may be. The next one is developing a multi-year finance plan. We've asked about this every year, and it would just be so much easier to budget if we had a multi-year plan. And then the last one is giving giving local boards more flexibility in developing programs and operations. I think every year legislators still keep passing more and more down and want to basically micromanage school boards and pass law that affects how you guys do business that may not be best for our community. So those are the items that I'll be mentioning, and they'll have an opportunity to respond from that. The KASB convention, none of us are going to be attending Friday. Saturday, December 1st then. Brandon, were you going to go for sure? Are you?
Saturday?
Yeah.
Yes, I'll be there all day on Saturday.
Okay, Brandon, myself, Dennis, were you going to be able to go? Okay. And then Marge, you had Chuck has surgery and those things, so. Right. Anyone else, were they going to go Saturday? I talked to Susan today.
I don't know that I can.
Okay. And then Sunday, I had sent the email out. Marge, her husband, should say, Marge has other obligations and wanted to know if someone else was going to be able to attend to go Saturday or Sunday to be the delegate at the assembly. If not, I mean, we don't have to have someone there, but we were gonna talk about that this evening and see if anyone.
What time is the
could fill-
delegate assembly?
It starts,
It's in the morning, I think 8:30.
yeah, it's the first thing there, Sunday morning.
Registration's
8
at
o'clock.
7:30.
I can't do that.
8:30. Delegate assembly begins, 8:30.
And Brandon, wouldn't you say the format change going to more of a open policy, it's all or nothing, we're not voting on separate policies like we've had in the past, they
No,
changed
they've
the
broken them
format?
down. Each of our, we have, it's one big policy position, but they've broken each article down into a separate vote.
Oh, they are gonna
That way-
vote separately?
That way they made it easier to take amendments from the floor.
Hmm.
So it's not just gonna be one vote, there will be separate articles.
So they did kind of go back to the more
Kind
formal?
of, but it's still all part of, instead of just being like an individual standing alone, it all is part of one big thing, but it's, we've got it all separated down, like it's
But you gotta
5 to
approve it in
7.
parts.
We're gonna approve it in parts, that way they can, and there's even subdivided out, in case someone wants to make an amendment from the floor, they can, section 1, whatever. That was the thought.
And then Sunday then, anybody,
I can't.
Marge, I mean, you don't have to go. I hate to have you go, actually.
I don't think, but, I mean, I don't think it's gonna change our vote if nobody
Yeah.
can vote for policy.
The only thing is, we've always, since I've been on this board, it's been really important to attend this. Lori could watch Chuck while I'm up there voting, and then I can come back. I guess I can do it that way if none of you can do it.
I cannot.
If she doesn't kill him, then we'll all be in good shape.
So you want to do that for sure, Marge? Because we have to get all the registrations
Yeah,
figured
I
out
will.
and, okay.
She wouldn't.
And that's just Sunday for March, okay? Saturday, Dennis, Brandon, do you guys want to ride together or?
I might not stay for the whole afternoon
Okay.
looking at the items, so I was gonna go up and do till about 1.
Sure, I'll get back, can I get back to you
Okay,
later
sure,
this week?
yeah. And then, if we do ride together, we'll probably have to leave somewhere around 7:15. I think 8:30 is when it starts, actually, so. And then the Palo Legislative Dinner is the January 2nd. And that's a ways off. We can do that, well, we won't have a meeting on the 24th, so we'll have to know by the,
Next
I
meeting.
can do that.
I'm
I
going.
think I can do that,
Okay.
so
I'm just coming down from the city, so I'll just meet you there.
Dennis, Brandon,
I think I can do
I'll
it.
try to be there on that.
David, Bill. Okay,
I'm gonna go to that.
Marge,
I'll have to let you know.
I'm about out of ink. And then I did talk to Elaine last week about the input that you gave on the survey that we were putting together. As soon as she's working on questions and those types of things based on that discussion, and she'll have that to me, and then we'll come bring that back, review it. I'll get a hold of her again, and then after we're pretty close, she'll come in and visit with all of us again and really get it refined down to exactly what we want. And then our retreat will be coming up in January. It looks like probably January 19th or the 26th are the two Saturdays in January. What was the other one? Seems like there was something going on the 1st January there.
Calendar.
Any preference, or do you think those will work?
At this point, I think either one of them will work for me, it's just.
26th is better for me.
Anyone else have a preference?
Well, we know the Chiefs won't be in the playoffs, so that shouldn't.
It shouldn't have a bearing on it.
19th, KU plays at 1 o'clock versus Texas. For those who are jail games.
Well, we could look at the 26th now. I mean, I'll
Might be a good
tentatively
day to
put that
schedule it
down
then.
and see, and if someone has a conflict, let me know, but we can kind of look at the 26th. And I believe that was everything I had, David, on my report.
All righty. Anything for Dean? Okay. 5.01, approved neighborhood revitalization properties. Second. Motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the matter? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, signify by saying no. Motion passes 6-0. Moving on, review the virtual school handbook change.
Brenda Cummings has asked to add this to the virtual school handbook. It's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but it's basically what we have for Audible Learning Center. And what it deals with are students that take electives and are enrolled in either OLC, that's already in there, but the virtual school. And if they miss 10 days or absent 10 days from that course, they are dropped from that course, and it just says that could affect their eligibility. And you want
It's very similar to the attendance policy that we have in our school already that says if a student misses 10 days, then they don't receive credit. They have to come in for a hearing to determine whether that credit is reinstated or not. So because they're at a virtual school or alternative school, they don't have access like that all the time. It's their responsibility to get in and out. If they're not able to make it in during that time to attend those classes, or the things that we thought about, which we're not doing them any favors by allowing them to stay, they could be utilizing that time to improve upon themselves within the virtual program or the attendance program. So that's a lot of why we made that change.
And it just wasn't in there when we started, so. We'll bring that back next meeting as an action item and
Okay.
approve that, and then it'll start second semester after it's approved.
All righty. Any questions on that before we move on? Hearing none. 5.03, the NIOSH report on Eugene Field Elementary.
We received this report. We had sent all this information in. This came in on November, well, they filled it out on November 7th and mailed it on November 7th. But it's posted on the webpage, and Shannon, is it posted in the building now? And
I forwarded it out to staff, and then I think, since it's 5 pages long, I didn't feel like I should copy it and send it to every parent. But what I thought I would do is in the newsletter next week, just send out a very small blurb about it saying we've had a report done, and then I will have copies in the office if they're interested in coming and picking
Well,
it
and
up.
it's also on the website.
there's a link on Eugene Field, and then there's also one on the USD site
So they
that
can
goes
read the
to
full
it.
report
But
there.
but it needs to be posted in the building, and what there's 8 recommendations that they have that Richard and I have gone through, and most of these are things that we are doing. We need to make sure that we continue to do them, document those things. A couple things that we need to do yet are, they suggested to have a drop box for comments in the school someplace, and Richard's gonna be working on that. And I don't know, did you look and see if you still had the one from your, but we'll make sure that gets done. A locked drop box could also be used to report problems. This is the official letter they actually sent. It's a file of information about this thick that has to do with mold. What else is in there? I mean, CO2, there's all the information, most of it things that we have had. If people want all that information, I wasn't gonna scan it all and put it online. Richard will have that still on my desk, but Richard will have that, and anyone can have access to that needs it. But the 8 recommendations are what we will be following, that they have given us. And on the webpage, I did make the comment, because they never did come out and do an official visit. I think that's important people understand that all the information that they received either was from contractors that were working on the building, the engineer reports that we had through that time period, work we have done, we're doing at that time and previously. So that's where they got all of their information. But I was pleased. It just takes a long, long time to get that. But If you need to have some reading material, it is posted. Questions, comments on that?
I was reading through this, and of all of the recommendations, the only one that caught me as interesting was the locked drop box to do that. Everything else is like, duh.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll follow all 8 of those and just make sure that they are continued to be followed in the future and go from there.
Okay.
So have you started on any of these? Like the maintenance schedule or anything like that?
Yeah, that's something that they've done, and I think Richard has all that logged and documented already. Yeah, all that stuff is already in the works, Marge, and we do that on, I think, well, I know we do that on every building, on all the maintenance logs, but in any reports that we get, I know they're all posted. Anything that is, we haven't had any water damage or anything like that since that
We've already
was
set the
fixed.
PM for all the equipment, and they've been PM several times already. For the equipment itself. Filters changed.
Mhm.
Is that something you keep in a central register? Is it something you keep on the equipment itself, or?
It's in our school due work order system.
I can hear Mr. Cat, but the rest of the people I can't hardly hear. Is it because it's where I'm sitting or what?
Okay. Anything else regarding the NIOS report? Okay, moving on, 5.04, discussion of board goals.
I have a copy in front of you, and this is what we will do at our retreat, is review the goals. I don't know if you've had time to go through them or not. We will update these and as we go. I know one of the things that after Dr. Krause's report and the bullet points he had at the end, recommendation for improvement, were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 7 things that we talked about adding into the goals. And after I looked at those, if you look at starting on goal 3, I think several of them will fit in there. We talk about implement strategies across grade levels with fidelity as action step 1, and then to pull all programs together under the MTSS umbrella. If you look at the second bullet point, I think that will fall into line there. And what we'll need to do is look and see where we are in the current process, who's responsible, how that's going to be evaluated, and if we want to put a definite timeline. I mean, a lot of these do have a definite timeline on them, but we'll readdress those things. If you have input now, I'll be happy to update this and then have it for the retreat as well. Well, down at the bottom where we have continued to search for a good diagnostic tool for math, I think we can add that under number 3 as action step 4. Or 4 or 5, and then everyday math assessment, we're in the process of doing that, and also put that under goal 3, and then elementary principals, elementary teachers, curriculum committee, whoever would be responsible for those academic coaches, and then come up with our timeline. I know we did come up with a timeline for everyday math cadre to meet and assess those programs. And actually, they're going to be starting sometime here right after the break and implement whatever program is recommended then in the 14-15 school year. The diagnostic tool, again, academic coaches, administrators, teachers need to be responsible for that, and that just needs to happen as soon as one is available. And as far as evaluation pieces, we'll need to come up with how we're going to evaluate those things. But those are a couple things we'll have to work on. On goal four, we have developed, on Dr. Krause's recommendations, develop a concentrated district-wide staff development plan with differentiated instruction. I think we talk about some of those things in on goal four. Same with continuous to build strong collaborative relationships between general ed and special ed members. I think we can come up with a goal that would fit under that. And again, who's responsible, set the timelines, those things.
Can I ask a quick
Yeah.
question?
Uh-huh.
On goal 4,
Mhm.
point number 4, differentiated instruction, true implementation, it lists a timeline of 1 to 3 years. Is this from starting of this year, or is this from the previous year? It said goals 2010 to 2015.
We updated this, last year, and that's why I think, David, on all of those, rather than 1 to 3 years, I think we need to define what
Okay.
that is. So,
All right.
on
That's what-
not
that's
just
what I'm
that, there's
asking.
several
Yeah.
of them on there, so,
Okay.
yeah. And there may be some that we need to take off. I don't know. I haven't really seen any that I feel like we can take off now, but, let's see, goal number 5. I think we need to add under this, ensure fiscal responsibility, stability, to maintain a balanced budget. I think we need to have the goal of our community survey, who's responsible, the timeline for that, make sure that that's expedited and we get that information. And how we're going to determine whether that is successful or not. So that's something, and hopefully by January, when we have our retreat, we'll have the survey in hand ready to go. But that needs to be added there. Goal 6, develop community business partners. I think that's something that we've been doing a very good job on. That will continue with the Economic Development Council,
Whatever they call it now.
FCDC, Franklin County Development Council. Actually tomorrow, or Wednesday, we meet with Neosho County, all the county superintendents, the chamber people, the economic development folks, and start talking a little bit more about that and some of the things we're doing. And actually Becky did, through the Economic Development Council, and Blaine Finch had a huge part in that, has just completed most of the things that we're doing for workforce, Dress for Success, Reality U, those things, and very, very successful. So I think we're doing a good job with those, but we'll go through again and look at timelines, and I'll talk to Becky about some things that I know they're going to be adding in the future. Number 7, effective school management, board retreats. We've done that. I have a note here, develop a system to assure programs are implemented with fidelity. And I think we need to somehow talk about, like walkthroughs, and that may be how it's evaluated, walkthrough data, administrative meetings, something. But I think we need to add on this whole section some more detail on those.
Is there a system developed yet, or are we still trying to develop one?
On, as far as,
That whole point?
no, there's not a true system developed yet. Did I have number 7? No. Okay, number 8, replicating models of effective schools. Again, I think, more detail when we say timeline. I think we really need to define when we want some of these things implemented, and be able to sit down and assess it at that time, and be able to say, yes, we've done that, or no, we haven't, we have some work to do, but again, just be more detailed in a lot of our goals here. Number 9, this one, recruit, train, retain talented professionals. I think this is the one that, on the recommendations from Dr. Krause, add a staff member to assure the duties of curriculum director. I think that's something, a discussion we need to have, And we can get into more detail with that, how that may look, and a timeline of when we want that to happen. I mean, I know we have to have a lot of discussion about that, the budget constraints, those things, but that would be a good one to put here. And then the other one is the last bullet there was reassign staff as deemed necessary to maximize student achievement. And again, I think that needs to be a goal that we have laid out and a timeline set and how we're going to evaluate that process. And then 10, develop leadership and educational excellence. This just has a couple, again, I think we can come up with a better, or some other goals, do a better job of defining what that means. And again, instead of annual, I think we need to put some timelines and be able to sit down and assess it at that time and see whether we've completed them.
We've got, just a quick question.
Yeah.
We've got that albatross hanging around our neck of the new teacher evaluation system.
Right.
Does that need to be spelled out?
Yes, it
as
does, and I'm
pick
sorry, I
and implement?
glanced over it, yes. What we need to do, and we need to have that determined by March 1st, Brian, is that right? And where it has on number 2, action step number 2, revise the evaluation tool, assure it will enhance professional growth, implement what we at that time said keep system. We need to use something, or keep McRail, or, and I'm trying to think of the state verbiage we need to use, something that they approve, but I don't know, we'll come up with that.
Something that meets the 6.
Criteria. Yeah, and, but that, and then we need to put by March of 2013, so.
So Dean, after the last State Board of Education meeting, has there been any more guidance or thoughts on where they want to head on the survey? I mean, the evaluation tool, since it's kind of part of the waiver, and the Board of Ed's kind of moving that way with the waiver, is there any guidance? What might be the acceptable tool?
Brian, have you heard anything as far as,
Not from the State Board of Education so much. The committee that was put together to study the evaluation protocol instrument is going to a seminar on December 15th. That's put on by KASB, and they're going to look in depth at the key, the McRail instrument, and then tell us what would have to happen with ours in order for it to probably meet this standard. So I'm hopeful that after we, as a group, attend that, it will kind of streamline our process in terms of making a selection.
so there really isn't another.
So follow up on that, has McRail, since McRail was a standard for a lot of years, have they came up with their own methodology?
The process has really not been modified too terribly much. It really was meeting most of the
Right.
6 criteria initially. The benefit to it would be that it would meld into our walkthrough documents that we're already using in the McRail system for that.
I didn't know if they've started any change or thought processes.
Well, that's one of them that they're debating on whether a district could use, is that right? Or is that already decided and we just need to?
Already, KASB believes that it would meet the requirements of the
State board would have to approve it, though. And along those same lines as state assessments, we're still waiting for what the state board is going to accept for next year's Kansas State assessments. Smarter Balanced Assessments is one that they've been working on, and then ACT came up with their plan, which McPherson was one of the schools, I think there's 3 of them in Kansas, was using for 6 through 8. I don't think they had, well, I know they don't have anything in elementary yet. So we're still waiting on that and really don't know what direction to tell our teachers or how we should go till they make that decision. And every month that they don't decide, it just makes it a little bit tougher for our staff to get a handle on that. On the goals, I think we need to talk about state assessments. And I know there are some districts, and I'm not going to recommend that we do this, but somehow in our goals, maybe address this, that they have actually passed resolutions where they are focusing on Common Core standards, and knowing that their test results are probably gonna be lower, I don't know why you would do that, pass a resolution saying that it's okay for our test results to decline since we're doing this. I just think we need to have that understanding, but I think we can address that
Well, there's nothing
in our
wrong-
goals,
Nothing
so.
wrong with saying that we're going to address Common Core standards and then do the best we can with them.
Right, yeah, I don't know why, but a couple districts have done that, and I just, yes, Mark?
I have a question about the evaluation tool, just for my own knowledge.
Mhm.
I know March 1st is the deadline, and in our district, does it have to be negotiated what tool we use? So it needs to be started, I know you sent out the caveat to start and nobody started, but it'll be March 1st before we,
Well, that's what, when the committee that Dr. Kraus put together, that's one of the things that they're gonna have to expedite that with OEA, and everybody needs to be on board, and it's gonna be a tool, whether we adopt, keep McRel, or use our own and make the modifications we need to, but it has to be done by March 1.
traditionally, we don't start to February.
I know.
And then March 1 comes right there.
Oh, and you bet. So we're gonna have to go with that one item and we've done that in the past on a few issues, nothing this big, but to have the teachers vote on that piece. So we'll see, unless the legislators decide to change that law, but it won't take effect anyway till next year, so we'll have to do it. Anything else you think on the goals? I just wanted to, on the raising student achievement, you might glance at this, and I'll do the same, and have the principals do that, and see if there's things that we need to add. We picked out 10 of these things right now. But if there's things on here that we want to incorporate into our goals, we need to do that. So you don't have to do it right now, but take a minute, and by January, then if you let me know, I'll try to put as much of this together so we can really get into the details of each one. Questions, comments on our goals?
There was something, I'm drawing a blank as to where exactly it came from. There was an accountability gap that was mentioned in Dr. Kraus's report. I'm wondering if this is the place to address that.
Well, it would be. Brian, do you know what that, I mean, we can look at, I have it here, but I don't think it ended up as a bullet, did it? Continuous.
It was early on in the.
Well, we will look. Do you know, I mean, that's what you remember is the accountability?
I just remember looking at it and reading it as an accountability gap, that there was.
Okay.
Isn't that how we came out with the position of discussing the curriculum director and make the accountability?
What that
Oh,
person would be
yeah, you're
doing
right.
now, or, and in the meantime, how is that being addressed?
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yep, you're right.
As we look at the adding of the curriculum director and we look at doing some planning, could we have input from our administrative team on where we really need to go next year for staff, since the budget's gonna be tight? I think the state's gonna be tight on, we might be able to keep the same funding, but when you're looking at 2012, 13, they're already projecting a negative ending balance in 2013. Since we're looking at adding a possible position of a curriculum director back to, as we lost Dr. McCauley, could we spend some time really looking at our staffing models to know
To know what it
where
is
we're really at on core needs, where we're at on core positions?
Yeah, I think we need to.
We need to spend some time on that, then come July, we're adding more positions, or we need to have some real thought coming into that January retreat on how many positions are really needed, are the ones that we added this year?
Yeah,
Where we really stand going into a potential budget cut year in 2012.
Right. We'll start working on that at our admin meetings and have that information ready and be able to lay all that out.
Because as we look at our numbers, Dean, we're kind of flat on our enrollment, or we're in kind of I think we're in a declining position on our budget authority, so we need to be very cautious that next year we could be very, very tight for capital, and as we look
And
at
the
what
year
we-
after is a big question mark.
Exactly, and I just, I've been through enough of laying people off, and that's not a pleasant position.
don't-
And before we add people, we might want to be thoughtful before we
Yeah.
just spend.
How are we saddling the horses now as opposed to buying new horses?
Yep. I agree. Should be a good retreat, so.
Okay. You said we don't need any exec,
I don't think on negotiations, obviously, and then personnel, I don't think we need one there, so
or do we?
do you want to take 5 minutes on the one, or?
On personnel possibly.
Okay, let's just do
Okay, so we'll
a
do
few minutes then
A
on.
few minutes on executive session on personnel. So we're gonna skip 6.01, go to 7.01, adjourn to executive session.
I move the board go into executive session discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel. And the board return the open meeting at 8:05 o'clock in this room. The executive session protects the privacy or interest of the identifiable individual, to include Dr. Kraus and Superintendent Gatt.
Second. We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? Say no. Motion approved, 6-0.
Yeah, take you that long to get in there.
Bill, yeah.
Thank you.
Motion approved. 6-0. Okay. 8.01. Approve the staff list as presented to you.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Did you get both those?
Brandon and.
Brandon and Dennis.
Okay.
Hearing no discussion. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion approved, 6-0. Announcements.
Like I said, tomorrow evening is the city legislative dinner at Neosho County. This Thursday, the 29th, is the District Advisory Council meeting. That's going to be here with the big committee, not just the internal folks. That's at 11:30. And then Saturday, Sunday, KASB conference in Topeka. Next board meeting, December 10th. And I assume we will cancel December 24th, Christmas Eve board meeting.
I would second that motion.
Third, fourth.
And then January 2nd is the payola dinner, so things are moving very fast here.
Any other announcements?
Yeah.
Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Bill, Dennis second. All those in favor, signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? You can sit here.
Adjourn by saying rock.
No, we can't do that. We cannot do that.
Second for it, adjourn by saying something.
I couldn't